There's a forest in the north that echoes a time before humans walked the earth. In these strange woods, nothing is what it appears to be. This is not a polar bear, but a black bear. Only one of many living contradictions in this enchanted forest. You are about to see something very unusual and very rare in nature. This is the story of a young black bear which is actually white, living in an isolated world on an island just off the west coast of Canada. Few people have ever seen white black bears, and our filmmakers were the first to film them. Because of their isolation, none of the animals on this island have learned to fear people. And so the bears let our camera crew get incredibly close to them, and to one in particular.
Nature is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and biannual financial support from viewers like you, and by Canon, providing the power of imaging to express your visions at home and work. And by Ford, we drew on our global resources, tapped into advanced thinking from around the world, brought innovation and quality home, and built a totally new car. It's called Ford Contour, a world car for the 21st century.
At the beginning of time, the legend goes, the whole world was white with ice and snow. Then the raven came from heaven and made the world green, as it is now. But he also wanted to make something to remind himself of the time when the world began, when everything was white. So on this island he went among the bears, the black bears, and every 10th one he turned white. That way he could look at them and remember the world when it was pure and clean. And so the raven issued a decree. The white bears would live here forever in peace. So far, miraculously, the bears have been able to live in peace. This island, just off the west coast of Canada, has remained virtually unchanged since the last ice age. No one lives here now, and no one has ever lived in the interior where the bears roam. Native Americans, the Tsimshian tribe, once had a village on the coast. It is their legend which tells of the transformation of black bears into white. Black bear is the name given to the species, but they actually come in a variety of colors. White black bears are very rare, but in an isolated population, their numbers can increase. On this secluded island, about 1 out of 10 are born creamy white. He's not an albino, he just has white fur, and in all other respects is as normal a black bear as the one that's just chased him up this tree. When the dominant bear finally leaves, he can come down. Our young bear is only 2 years old, and this is his first season away from his mother. He's learning some hard facts about being a bear. There's a definite bear hierarchy, and right now, he's at the bottom. He'll spend the next year learning how to survive on his own in a primeval world. This wilderness remains untouched and pristine, protected by its isolation, and according to legend, by the raven's ancient decree. These are black gray wolves. Like white bears, they are a rare sight on the mainland. Most gray wolves are gray. But when populations are isolated and undisturbed, some characteristics, like coloration, have a way of blossoming. All of the wolves in this pack are black. In this unusual forest, you can expect the unexpected. A tropical rainforest may have more variety, but these forests produce more pounds of life per square foot than any other ecosystem in the world. This is due mainly to the Pacific winds, which gather moisture from the ocean and release it here as rain, and that means an abundance of life. At one time, the whole North American West Coast was like this, but now much of that wilderness has been lost forever. These bald eagle chicks are being raised in a forest that has changed little since it was formed 10,000 years ago. Few animals today live in a place so free from human disturbance. This island is not a national park or a reserve. It has no legal protection. Because of its vulnerability, we've chosen not to disclose its name or exact location. Its only sanctuary status is in the raven's guarantee that the white bears would live here forever in peace. Right now, the only problems a young white bear is confronted with are the normal ones of finding food, learning about bear society, and in spring, making his way down from the forest to the sea. In July, schools of salmon began arriving from the distant reaches of the Pacific, followed closely by killer whales. They feed on the salmon while the fish are waiting for the right time to launch themselves up the island streams to spawn. The whales are the first in a long line of animals who partake in this annual feast. Land-based animals have to wait until the fish come to them. Our youngster has never caught a fish before, but he's probably seen his mother do it. After about 18 months together, black bear families split up, and the cubs are on their own. Young bears learn mainly by observing their mothers, but they can also benefit from watching other experienced bears in action. A bear who's been around for a long time will know where the fjord is shallowest. That's where the salmon will be more concentrated and seemingly easier to catch. Easier, but certainly not easy. In fact, the fish are almost impossible to catch in still water. They're just too quick and slippery. But there are so many of them, it's hard to resist trying. There is a better fishing spot, but the bears will have to wait. The salmon will be traveling inland, but they can't go until it rains. Soon, summer downpours will fill the streams and provide a passageway to their spawning sites. In their eagerness to get on with their mission, some fish do manage to swim a short way into the fresh water. Here, the salmon are exposed and helpless among the rocky cascades. A bear now has a chance at catching a 15-pound meal. Our youngster may get a real fishing lesson this time. He finds a place to watch the dominant bear at work in the stream below. There's no charity among bears, and this larger, more experienced one has no intention of sharing his fishing spot with a subordinate. The young bear makes his way down for closer observation. By now, the older male has given up on this spot. There weren't enough fish to make it worth all the effort. The youngster decides to investigate further. But first, he takes a quick look around to make sure the other bear is really gone. Then he decides to try his own luck. Our little bear doesn't give up easily, but eventually he realizes that he's just taking a swim. He still has to learn that the best place to catch a fish is when it's leaping over the rapids, or at least when it's in very shallow water, where he can pin it down. He could still use a bit of practice. Black bears lead solitary lives, but they do encounter other bears, especially during salmon season. Now the attraction to protein-packed fish overrides their natural tendency to avoid each other. But all it takes is one menacing look from this grown male, and the young bear backs off. He learned how to climb trees early in life. Cubs escape up trees whenever there is any sign of danger. This behavior proves useful when you're just being bullied as well. Until there are more fish, he will have to find food in the forest, but that suits him fine. Technically, they may be classified as carnivores, but most of their diet is vegetarian. When the salmon come to these streams, the bears will certainly enjoy the feast, but most of the year they live on the surrounding vegetation, as do many of the residents of these pristine woods. This wolf pack has recently had pups. One of the adults has the job of bringing home the leftovers from a deer hunt. He'll feed the pups partially digested meat that he carries in his stomach. This male is not the pup's father. Their father is gray, the color most of the pups have inherited. The pups have an easy life for their first few months. Like dogs, their domestic relative, most of a youngster's time is taken up by play. Only high-ranking members of a wolf pack are allowed to reproduce. Young subordinates take care of the babysitting. It's a tough job and a big responsibility. He has to feed 7 hungry mouths, keep the curious youngsters from wandering away, and be ready to defend them. But he has little to worry about from black bears, who rarely prey on other mammals. But it takes a lot of plants to sustain these bulky vegetarians, so they have to eat all the time. It's early August, and the rains are finally here. Soon, the salmon will begin their epic journey up the streams to spawn. The long winter sleep starts in a few months, and living through it means gorging now. Our young white bear has still had no luck at fishing, although he has certainly tried his best. Finally, a successful catch, a feat that might have more to do with luck than technique. Either way, it's a welcome meal for this novice fisherman. Just because a bear has caught a fish doesn't mean his problems are over. The young bear searches for a secluded place to eat to avoid having his meal stolen. He's been spotted having lunch, and there's still enough left to attempt a takeover. Some bears rarely have to fish at all. They just keep a lookout for smaller bears. Even when he's finally managed to obtain a nice salmon meal, our youngster loses out once again. For a young bear, the social rules are difficult to accept. This early in the season, the fishing is a challenge for all the bears. The rains are inconsistent, and during dry spells, when the streams are low, the salmon cannot continue their journey upstream. They become caught in pools of still water again. If our little bear has learned anything, it's where and when not to waste your energy. But this inexperienced bear can't resist the temptation of all those fish crowded together, trapped in the pool. Location is everything when it comes to salmon fishing. These two will simply have to find a place where they have the advantage, not the fish. Even without fish to fight over, there's still the question of dominance to be worked out. The young white bear seems to feel a bit bolder looking down on his rival. So he decides to try a small threat. It worked. For once, our youngster wasn't the one who had to back off. There is a place in the hierarchy besides the bottom, after all. He's getting quite good at being in the right place at the right time, the key to catching a salmon. When the salmon are spawning, many species enjoy this temporary feast. Next month, the bald eagle chicks will be leaving the nest. The parents stuff them with salmon now to give them strength for the day when parental duty means sending them off on their own. The wolf pups are growing up too. These first few months have been very important to their development. Childhood for wolves is a period to begin establishing dominance relations and for social bonding, two essential ingredients of a wolf pack. The subordinate male is still in charge of the baby food. Seven cubs can eat a deer a week. That's a lot of food to carry home. But soon the pups will be allowed to go to the kill, and eventually they'll join in the hunt. Wolf society is very complex. In fact, it's one of the most highly developed social structures in the animal kingdom. For this pack, the next step is getting through the winter, a time when pups are very vulnerable and some of them may die. And winter isn't far away. The legendary raven, of course, would know that and is stocking up on insects. Autumn brings more rain, lots of rain. The streams are overflowing. The salmon are back on course. The bears return to their fishing stations, although conditions have changed quite dramatically. He was lucky. Bears are very capable swimmers, but under these rough conditions, he could have drowned. Our youngster has found a fishing spot. He didn't even have to challenge any other bears for it. And it's fairly clear why. This one's really precarious. He approaches this problem from another direction. Now what? Considering their bulk, black bears are agile climbers, but their specialty is trees, not rocks. When they're cubs, they spend a lot of time climbing trees, where their mother sends them for safety. They are highly intelligent, and cubs require long periods of education from mom. Fathers have no role in child care. These cubs are only about 6 months old. They stick close by their mother as she tackles this fast-moving stream, looking for a good place to fish. The stream is like an obstacle course, a real challenge for such small cubs. Catching salmon is not a skill a bear is born with. Certain techniques have to be learned by watching mother in action. They also acquire knowledge about when and where to find the salmon, even those special places where the fish rest up and can be plucked out as if from a fridge. The cubs stay with their mother for more than a year, learning by observation and imitation. But their education extends well beyond fishing to foraging, denning, and proper behavior. They'll remember the best places to eat and may return to them years later as adults. Generation after generation, mother black bears pass on the secrets of this bountiful forest. Salmon season is nearly over now, and our young bear has become quite an expert at fishing and at maneuvering on the slippery terrain where the salmon congregate. He's also grown larger and a bit more sure of himself. Now he faces his challengers head on, even one that's older and bigger. The older male can't be bothered with this impertinent youth, so he lets him go without a fight this time. Our bear finds a great spot for catching easy prey, where salmon have become trapped among the rocks. The older male has followed him, and now there is something worth fighting for. He will not give up easily. Since there's no way out, he tries to make the best of a bad situation and attempts to reclaim a piece. At last, the big bear finishes his stolen meal. This is a popular fishing hole, and many bears come here. For the time being, this one stands on the sidelines, watching to see how the fishing is today. He decides to try his luck, but he'll have to deal with the competition first. A large male who has already claimed this prime location for himself. When he attempts the takeover, the other bear refuses to relinquish his fishing rights. He decides to find his own spot nearby, but this time he approaches with caution so as not to annoy his rival. They share the wealth from a respectful distance. A salmon's life is just one long round trip. This fish was probably born here, then headed out into the Pacific. Now, 4 years and thousands of miles later, it has returned to the very same stream to spawn. Salmon are very particular about where they lay their eggs and undergo an arduous trip inland against the current and the bears to find the right spot. And then, in the waters of their birth, they die. But reproduction is not quite the end of their contribution to the next generation. Their decaying bodies provide important nutrients for the fry that hatch, or at least those bodies that get a chance to decay. Even the wolves, habitual diners on red meat, turn up for a fish course. They've come to the easiest place for a wolf to catch a salmon. Their paws don't have the dexterity of a bear's, and they can only capture a fish in extremely shallow areas. Our sitter has brought the pups, too, part of the preparation for the next phase of their training. As winter approaches, the pack will all join together again, and the pups will no longer be left behind. Soon the bears will be finding dens to hibernate for the winter. But now, it's just time for a quick nap. Our youngster will be facing his first winter without his mother's protection, only the protection of the raven's ancient decree. He's done quite well feeding himself and has already put on more than 50 pounds. But he will need lots of fat to get him through 5 months of hibernation. For a bear, one could possibly say it's survival of the fattest. At the end of the salmon season, the place to go is the coast. When the fish die, a lot of them are washed back down the streams to the sea. Now the gulls have their feast. There are prime spots here at the mouths of streams, but our bear's not the only one who knows about them. As usual, he'll have to compete for the right to fish here. He meets another bear who seems about his age and size. These two are extremely tolerant of each other. Rare behavior for black bears, especially when competing for food. All of his other encounters have been confrontations, but not this one. This lack of hostility is odd. They even seem to be playing a little. It's just possible that these two are siblings who've met up again after months apart. Black bear families separate when the cubs are only about 2 years old, but they do bump into each other now and then. Related or not, they don't stay together for long. Our bear will live out his life in a wilderness which has so far remained as peaceful as the raven decreed. But that may be coming to an end. The main industry in this part of Canada is timber, and the island of the Ghost Bear has been marked off into logging concessions. At its northern tip, the cutting has already begun. Eventually, timber companies plan to move into the interior of the island, where our young male lives, where ghost bears have been living for 10,000 years. Conservationists are trying to protect this habitat, but it's not known if they will be successful. It's not known if the raven's decree will endure, allowing the white bears to live here forever, in peace.
Nature is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and biannual financial support from viewers like you, and by Canon, providing the power of imaging to express your visions at home and work. And by Ford, maker of the new Ford Contour, a world car for the 21st century.
PBS.